Hey there, podcasting badasses. It's your host, Sober Steve, the podcast guy. And to celebrate Labor Day weekend with you, because yesterday, one of my clients, Jim, launched his podcast, Jim Sells the Suncoast, and it is out now wherever you find podcasts. And it is a great opportunity if you live in Sarasota or the Suncoast of Florida, or are ever considering moving to the Suncoast of Florida. He is a realtor who knows his stuff inside and out. Came to me saying he wanted to stand apart because we live in an area where there are literally 2 realtors for every block, not even neighborhood, but block in town. And so one way to set himself apart, he decided, was to launch a podcast because he's the only realtor out of hundreds in town that has decided to start one and keep it going. And he knew that he needed some help. And so he reached out to me. And from there, I've set it up, and I will include the trailer at the end as well so that you can listen a little bit more about what you can expect from his show. But I'd love for you to hear what his journey so far from the moment we started working together to the moment his podcast launched was like. And then a little bit more information about the podcast itself for you all. If you'd love to go find it and follow it, I will make sure to include links for it in the show notes. But Jim has been an amazing podcasting badass who had it in him from the moment I met him, and I am so glad that he went on this journey and took me along for the ride. And so subscribe and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Jim Sells the Suncoast, and here's his journey.
Hey there, Jim. So what inspired you to connect with me about making a podcast?
You know what? It wasn't something that I thought that I wanted to do at first. As we met, and I'm like, oh, podcast, that's cool. But as that idea fermented in here and went around, I thought, what is a way that I can reach out, one, to grow my brand and do it in a way that impacts people, touches a lot of people. And it's a little different. If you go to YouTube, every single realtor in the country has videos on there, and most of them are long form. So you're talking 12 minutes plus, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And I don't think most people really just want to sit down and watch a video about an area. If you're following up on a house, maybe. But otherwise, you're in there sitting down going, oh, let me read about Atlanta. 30 minutes later, you're like, all right, I still don't have what I want. So how can you get out there? What can you do? And I think talking with you when we talked about where do you listening most? And I listen to podcasts all the time. So every time I'm driving around somewhere, I got a different podcast in there, and I have about 6 and I go through, all right, I've listened to them all for this week. What else is out there? It could be 15 minutes. It could be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I can start and stop. But it was a great way to hear and get the information. And then if I want to do more due diligence or research on something, I can follow up. But it certainly was an avenue to learn and experience it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's huge for your business. And while I might have inspired you about how cool a podcast could be, why did you choose to work with me rather than rough it out and tough it out on your own?
You know what? Some of it might be, I'm at that age where when you meet somebody who is experienced and an expert in it, you rely on their expertise. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I know my topic. I know what I want to communicate. I'm not above asking for help on how can I communicate that out there. But as we had these meetings and we had the talks, one, your confidence came through. I was able to see you knew what you were talking about. Sometimes you talk to somebody, oh, they do this. Then when you sit down and talk, you're like, oh, they really do. They really do know what's going on. Oh, I never thought about it that way. Look what they're doing. And when you start adding those different little pieces together, the podcast is much more than, let me just record this and put it out there. Do we have a theme? Do we have a schedule? Do we have a plan for stockpiling or getting ahead so that you can still live your life? How are we going to advertise this? What can we do? You're talking about 30-second reels or little outtakes of things that can go out there. All these things that can come together that maybe I could have figured it out in 5 or 6 years, but you're paying somebody for their expertise and knowing what's going on. When I apply that same information to anybody that says, why do I want you as a realtor? You know what? Most people do 1 to 3 transactions in their entire life. When I look at what's going on here at the brokerage, and they're doing that every week. Where's the expertise and how can we help?
And you have now recorded a couple episodes that are pre-launch. So what have you found most valuable in my coaching program so far?
You know what? It's the expectation that it's not as hard as you think it's going to be. It's not as difficult. Most people do not like the way they look and sound, but you know what? Everybody in your life, that's what they've seen and heard. And you're doing pretty good. What's to be afraid of? So just jump out. And that's been first thing. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not going to stop and start and make it perfect. We're going to put it out there so people see who you are. I let my first guy, Adam, and say, hey, my first podcast, I go, me too. So let's see what happens. There's really no downside. And then we just jump in.
I love that. And my podcast about podcasting and one of my branding is the idea of being a podcasting badass. So what does being a podcasting badass mean to you now that you are a podcaster?
It means that it's a chance to showcase that just maybe I know what I'm talking about, that I know who to talk to get the information. I know where to go for the research. I know how to do this. And I know what I want to find out. That's guiding what I'm doing is, you know what? I don't know that much about pest control. I'm not a pest control expert, but I know somebody who is. And so we got to sit down, and during the conversation, several things that he said, I'm like, I had no idea. And so now I might think about that a little bit different. And then may guide how I look at real estate in the area different so that it's directly impacting what I do and what I'm trying to attract people to come do.
Excellent. I can't wait for everyone in town to be listening, as well as people moving to town to listen. And speaking of can't wait, you are a couple of weeks out from a release. So what are you most looking forward to for when the podcast is out and people can listen and download it?
It's exciting. There's so much happening in real estate in the country, and particularly down here in the Suncoast of Florida, that I'm really excited that people see it and maybe reach out and want to have some more information on it. When you're talking about the different communities and different structures that are going on, whether you want to live on the key or on the water, you want to live inland, or you want to experience a vacation home in the area for the winters. It's going to be fun to talk about all those with the people who are the experts in those and see where that goes.
Excellent. Sounds good. That is all the questions that I have for now. Anything else that you'd like to add about your experiences with me?
You know what? If you are desirous of getting information out there or being able to impact a lot of people, I'll tell you, talk to Steve. This has been such a smooth and much easier than I expected transition to set it up and to do this. There's no exclusive studio or a lot of outlay for equipment. If this is something that's what I do more, then I'll step into it. But it's something that I can step up to. And I like the experience and the guidance and the follow-up. Hey, did we get this done? Great. Here's where we're going. Let's check it. Let's verify it. All right. We got to go back and follow up on this aspect. Great. Now I know what to do. So it's not 2 weeks and you'll be out here and you're like, all right, well, what do I do for 2 weeks? No, we've got a step by step. We got process. Jumped on and grabbed your videos, which were great. Really able to go through it. So that when we had our next talk and meeting, a lot of it was clear. Maybe I wasn't an expert in it, but at least I knew the direction we were going and was able to speak about it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a blast and I can't wait for the next one.
Excellent. Thank you.
Welcome to Jim Sells the Suncoast. Hey there, sunshine seekers. If you're dreaming of buying or selling a slice of paradise on the Florida's dazzling West Coast, you've hit the jackpot. I'm Jim, your friendly neighborhood real estate guru, here to make your Suncoast dreams come true. From the vibrant streets of Tampa and St. Pete to the serene shores of Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key, and Lakewood Ranch, and all the way down to Sarasota County, including Sarasota, Siesta Key, Lido Key, Venice, and Port Charlotte, I'm your go-to for all things real estate. In this podcast, you'll get a VIP pass to the behind-the-scenes action of real estate adventures, exclusive updates on new developments, and insider info on neighborhoods. We'll break down the buying and selling process with tips from industry pros and local insiders so you can navigate the market like a champ. Whether you're a first-time buyer or a seasoned pro looking for your dream upgrade, relocating from afar or making a local move, our episodes will arm you with the knowledge to save both time and money. Catch us every Monday for the latest scoop and make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Don't miss out. Our first episodes drop on September 2nd, 2024. See you then, sunshine seekers.